Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Xtina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on Instagram and TikTok. If you are returning, welcome back to McCrazy's Place. If you are new, welcome and thank you for joining us. If you're here, you know that it plays on YouTube and it also has an Instagram and a Facebook. Also co-host of some other things. I'll run all that down at the end of the show. I'm really excited about this episode. You'll see that I have two people joining me today, and you'll see that the background is different. So, even though we're in McCrazy's Place, we have traveled all the way to Japan, where you guys finally get to meet the bestie that I'm talking about all the friggin' time. My bestie of 18 years who's lived in Japan for 12. So this is Erika, the bestie. This is Matt. They both live here in Japan, and that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So why don't you start by introducing yourself to the people.
Hey magical friends! It's Erika, your local Hufflepuff. You can find me at PoodleNoodle82. That's all.
That's it.
Matt.
Hello everybody, yes, I'm Matt. I don't do social media stuff, so you can't follow me anywhere.
Okay, so I'm really excited about this one. I really wanted to talk about the fact that you're both expats here in Japan. I kind of want to talk about how that came to be, what that's like, and how it differs from where you're from, which is going to be interesting because obviously Erika is from the same place I'm from. How would we know each other otherwise? But Matt hails from Australia.
Correct.
So why don't you guys kind of talk a little bit about how you ended up here and what that's like and how it's different from where you're from.
You want to take it?
Sure. I think I was about 23, 24, and I was working, and I randomly, in the mail at work, there was a pamphlet to go on hiking in Nepal. That was my first trip overseas. And I went across, it was like 10 days. I got back from that. I got to work, I started work the next day, and I was just like, yeah, I want to leave again to somewhere else. And Japan I knew very little about Japan. I didn't really have any specific desire to come here. This was the easiest place to come that allowed me to work. The original plan, because I came across on a working holiday visa, so that's a year and a half. And my very loose plan was, okay, a year and a half in Japan, go across to the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup, in Germany, and then we'll sort of see. I had a few plans after that. And then I got here, and then that was 20 years ago. And yes, and so I ended up staying. I was quite comfortable here. I enjoyed here. I enjoyed doing the work here. And so, yeah, I've stayed.
Where are you from originally in Australia?
I grew up in what you would call like a rural city. It was about 60,000, 70,000 when I was a kid. It's called Bendigo. It's about 150 kilometres north of Melbourne. Where I specifically grew up was on the outskirts, so I essentially grew up with 5 or 6 houses around me in farmland and bush or forest. So yes, very different.
No country boy in Australia.
Very much so, very much. Yes, I would say my parents kind of almost a hobby farm. Like we had sheep and cows occasionally and whatnot.
So it does just. When you say hobby farm, like that wasn't the livelihood, but they did it just...
No, both my parents worked in the police force. That's where they met. My dad was still a policeman when I was a kid. My mum had retired or stopped. And they moved to that area just because it was between the grandparents. It was pretty much halfway between grandparents. They used to live down in Melbourne. Yeah, I don't really think of it as a hobby farm, but we had animals. It was just something that we always had, but they weren't.
Do you know how to shear sheep?
No, but I know how to try to move sheep into an area to get them onto a truck to take them to the place where they got shorn. Yeah.
That's a shepherd.
Yeah, Yes. There's not too many fond memories of herding sheep, I can tell you that. They were terrible. Yeah. But yeah, and so I think not long after I arrived here, it was very much, I'm like, ooh. I had this sort of inkling that maybe I'd stay longer than what I had planned to. Just, it was a vibe thing. There was nothing very specific about it. But yeah, I found it, I don't know what it was about the environment here. Because obviously it was very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different. But yeah.
Did you have any knowledge of language or any kind of foundation there?
Right, so my foundation of Japanese language, and probably this had, yeah. So I used to do judo, and I started doing judo, which is a Japanese martial art, when I was about 7 or 8. But that never actually increased my knowledge of Japanese, apart from the Japanese we did counting.
Yeah.
We counted in Japanese, and all the moves and throws were the Japanese words. We didn't use the English words.
Yeah.
But that never increased my interest in Japan at all. It was just a sport that I did.
That's interesting. You did that in Bendigo?
Yes, Bendigo was actually had a very strong judo club.
For 60 to 70,000 people? That's wild.
Oh yeah, no. It was the guy who was the coach there was really into it, and it was just luck. Then there was no other place like that really outside of Melbourne that had that kind of a big judo club. And yeah, and I think when I originally came across to Japan, I came across to work for Nova, who's like one of the big English schools around, and you had to do it. We did a test about Japan. And I knew barely anything. There's name the islands. I'm like, I have no idea. There's who's I think I might have known the current Prime Minister. That was about it. But there's a lot of stuff I'm just like, yeah, I have no idea about it. And it wasn't until I was really on the aeroplane coming here. So this was about 3 months after my trip to Nepal. Mm. So I came back, and I applied for the job. And then on the 20th of August, I flew out. And it wasn't until I was on the aeroplane, I was like, oh, my life tomorrow is going to be very different. Yeah.
Erica, tell your Japan origin story.
So my story is very different from Matt's. I come from Los Angeles, a city called Torrance in LA, and there is a city, our neighboring city, called Gardena. And during World War II, where they had Japanese internment camps, which is basically where Japanese people were gathered and held through the war. Gardena was one of the cities that had an internment camp in California. Now, this is important because they were given a choice after the war was over, and they were told that they could have a bit of money and buy land for a cheaper rate, or they could use that money to go back home. But what the American government didn't understand was that that was home for so many people. And someone like George Takei, if you go on to his TED Talk to watch that, it's very interesting because his family had already purchased a home, and that home was taken from them. But basically, they were all told that they can start over in that area, or anywhere they wanted, really. But so many people decided to continue to live there. I don't know why. After being treated so nicely. But thankfully for me, what that meant was that I grew up in a very diverse community, and one of those groups that were represented was Japanese, and we had Japanese supermarkets, Japanese little plazas with all different kinds of food and culture. And I remember having Bon Odori, which is something that is done here, which is like a dancing festival in the summer. And it's just a community that was very well represented where I came from, so I knew a lot about it. Not like that.
Yeah. I was was just thinking because Melbourne is very multicultural. Bendigo, now that I'm out, is very much not. I mean, I was at a big junior high school, and I was like, there's probably 2 Asian kids, and that was about.
That's a lot for 60, 70,000 people. Considering.
It's it's pretty. I didn't realize how blanket wide my upbringing was until I sort of like got a lot older.
There were 4,000 people in my high school.
My graduating class was like 1,200 people.
Yeah, mine too. And we have, I mean, literally people from
That's LA.
all over the world.
Yeah.
All over the world. I mean,
Not
mind
that
you, Torrance is very racist.
It's also very Asian.
Yeah, it's super, like, different kinds of Asian.
Yeah, that's why I said very Asian, not very, like you're talking about the Japanese. There's a lot of Korean people there.
Yeah. South.
There's there's Torrance is very Asian.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, and kind of a, not really a tangent, but going back, do you know what kind of Asian those 2 Asian kids that went to your school
one
were?
was Filipino, I believe, and one was, I'm gonna say his family was, because they used to have one of the Chinese restaurants in the town. It was called Kong Dynasty. And I'm gonna say, I don't know exactly, I'm gonna say Chinese background, maybe a Hong Kong background. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
question. Okay, go ahead.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
So, that being said, it was not a new culture to me at all. We have Little Tokyo, we've got all kinds of stuff. So, in middle school, my middle school did this really weird thing where 8th graders could go. Middle school ends in 8th grade in the United States.
Okay.
Middle schoolers could go to the high school to take a class if we wanted to, if we qualified for an upper level math class, or if we wanted to take a language class. And this was in lieu of PE. So I was like, yeah! Get me out of PE for sure. So I went and I think I had applied for and got into the Spanish class, but the highest level Spanish class, I'm Mexican. So
Also, her first language was Spanish.
technically, yes, even though I was born in Los Angeles, and because my family is Mexican and we speak Spanish at home. So I got kicked out of that class promptly.
Ma'am, you know more than the teacher. Get out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted AP credit. I wanted to be able to, I still got AP credit because I took the test. But, yeah. So by that time, all the other classes were full. I wanted to try French after that. But the French class in that time period was full, so I couldn't. And my only other option was Japanese. And it was either Japanese or go back to PE class. And I was like, damn.
Japanese
No.
it is.
So I started taking Japanese. I took Japanese classes from 8th grade, 9th grade, through 10th grade. I had already fulfilled my language learning, my extracurricular activity credits. So I stopped in 10th grade. But by that time in high school, we had, so Torrance's sister city is Kashiwa, which is in Tokyo, or in Chiba. And so we had an exchange, and my mom was like, yeah, okay, we'll host. So we hosted Japanese students all throughout my high school, my 4 years of high school.
And the rest of her life.
Basically, it ended up being so, yes.
I've met a lot of her mom's Japanese exchange students.
Yeah. So one of those exchange students was like, hey, I've been to your house, you come to my house. And I was like, all right. So the first time I came to Japan, I was 15, and I came on an exchange program with, I want to say, like 30 other kids, something like that, 30 kids in my high school. And we already had a bunch of like set things to do. through the program, going to visit this shrine, that museum, blah, 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 cultural things. Then we had like one free day to do stuff with our families. And yeah, it was really fun, really different from Mexican culture or my day-to-day life. There wasn't anything that was too culturally shocking where you would say that you experienced culture shock, but it was fun, quirky things like going to the high school and changing your shoes.
Yeah.
So if you're, to us this is normal now, but at the time I'm like, oh, they gave me cute slippers. And I took pictures of the slippers and, but I think that was like the one thing that shocked me more than anything else. That's it. Just the slippers. I was like, wow, you go to high school and you still take off your shoes and change shoes to indoor shoes? That was kind of trippy. But I really liked it. It stuck. And then I also took another Japanese learning course in college where I remembered the things that I had forgotten because I didn't really use the language. You don't use it, you'll lose it.
Like my Spanish?
Yeah. But then one of my mom's students, her exchange students who was at the house, was from Matsuyama, which is where we are right now. And she was like, hey, I have a friend who wants to do a cultural exchange program. Do you want to be the guinea pig? And I was like, I've got a full-time job working at an insurance and financial institution.
That's where we met.
Yeah. And I also have a part-time job working as a cook in Long Beach. Which
I used to go and she used to make me tacos.
Yeah. But what the hell? Why not? I'll just quit all my jobs and just peace out to Japan. And that's
3 to 6 months. I'm going for 3 to 6 months, she said.
I was on a cultural activities visa. So it was experiencing culture and sharing my culture with people. And 6 months.
She never came back.
Turned into 12 years.
I cried every day for that first year, just so you guys know. Because when we were in LA, we were absolutely inseparable.
Yeah.
Even though I was married with children, we were absolutely inseparable.
That's my story. Oh, LA? Yeah, it's different from here, but opposite from him. So, LA's LA. It's huge. It's very diverse, very big, very expansive, lots of things to do, to eat, to see, to everything. Whereas Matsuyama is about 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And I now live in the country. There's a rice field over there. There's an empty field right there. There's an empty field right there. Vegetables are grown over there. Lots of space. And allergies. Lots of allergies.
Yeah, she happens to be allergic to the rice plant, guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And lives in Japan.
That's my autumn allergies.
And has a rice field next to her house. Okay, so now, tell us about your everyday life here. Like, what happened? Like, you've been here 12 years, you've been here 20. You came, obviously the vibe kept you here.
Yep.
Talk about your everyday life in Japan.
Well,
It's chill.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, it's, I suppose since having a family and all that, that takes up a lot of the stuff, and between that and a job, I don't think there's, it's pretty similar as it would be in most countries. I'm trying to think where, before I came here, I think before I was sort of had those responsibilities, I think one of the things I loved about when I first came here, one of the first things I noticed was how clean it was here. And I think that's, you do get used to that here. It's just so clean. And it's like
Everybody's so respectful. You go on a picnic and you take your trash home.
Yeah, that was,
There aren't trash cans anywhere.
No. No, everybody, yeah. And that was, I remember they had the Hanami, which are the spring picnics, drinking parties at night. And they just go down and like, there's hundreds of people in the main park, and everybody's drinking and eating and having barbecues there when they still allow barbecues.
Yeah.
And just everything gets cleaned up. And it's just that everything's clean, and there's no fights, and I was just like, wow. This
like you would imagine that people would get belligerent because they're drinking, right?
Yeah.
You would imagine that things would get out of hand, or there would be some sort of
tension.
But no, everyone is just having a good time, just being respectful towards one another and to the environment. And even though they know that like we're all outside and we could easily just leave things a mess and walk away, nobody does.
Yeah, it is very interesting. But I think especially in Matsuyama,
well, I will say that was one of the huge like pieces of culture shock for me the first time I came. So this is my third time coming here. The first time I came here, when I went home, I experienced some serious culture shock. And of course I was going back to
reverse culture shock?
Reverse culture shock. So like going back and like you said, everything's so clean. Nobody litters. Like a lot of people smoke, but nobody throws their cigarette butts on the ground.
There aren't any butts.
Like it's not, you just don't litter here. And so going home, even though I was coming back to what I know, getting back to LA, I was like, ew, it's so dirty here.
The same thing with Australia. Australia's not that bad, but you just get so used to
LA
everything.
is that bad.
Yeah.
But it was like, ew, this is gross.
Yeah.
Like, who lives like this?
That's actually one of the things that you experienced this time, because we were in Tokyo for like 4 days before we came back to my house. And she said, like, I remember you saying that one of the things was you had gone to public toilets many times and never experienced a public restroom like you would in the States.
Oh God, no. Like those gas station bathrooms where you're like scared to touch the toilet and all that. Yeah, no, that's not a thing here. Public bathrooms are clean. The bidet is a thing, bro. Yeah. The bidet is a thing. Public bathrooms have bidets. Yeah. And some of the nicer ones even have the heated toilet seat.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm home, it's very rare that I'll use a public bathroom. Unless I am absolutely desperate, I'm not going to the restroom in public. Just because, ew. Yeah. But here, it's not a thing. Like, oh, I gotta pee. Okay, there's a toilet there. Okay, great. No problem. Like,
I remember toilets 12 years ago, and I don't think it has gotten any better. I would imagine.
Everything you remember is worse.
Yeah. I don't want to use a public toilet.
And mind you, she hasn't been home in like 5 years because COVID kind of effed off everything, so she hasn't been home in a long time.
Yeah, because I think I was in the middle of nowhere for one of my son's tennis competitions, and they have like a camping area, and the camping areas have like sort of toilet huts, I suppose.
Like a porta potty.
Bigger than that,
like a porta potty.
A bigger, like a sort of a small house that contains all sort of like the bathrooms for everybody.
At the park at Shirayama.
At Shirayama? Oh yeah, similar to that. Yeah. And I walk past, I'm like, I'll go to the toilet, and I walk in, and not only they've redone this camping area is old, and the building you can tell is old, but they've redone all the toilets. I walk in, and they've got like the one that opens up for you, like on the campground. I was like, damn, okay, even by Japanese, this is pretty fancy, like. But yeah, like the cleanliness in bathrooms and toilets are second to none, and that's why Japanese people have so many troubles when they travel overseas, because they just, it doesn't matter where they go, they say, oh, I'm so dirty. I'm just like, you don't realize how clean it is here. Yeah.
But I mean, that's why they're on the news a lot, like when there's an Olympic event or anything, and there's a big group of Japanese tourists that are at the game or at the whatever event, and then you see them all like cleaning up, picking up all the trash in the area where they sat or whatnot. Like, that's not shocking to us anymore because
It's normal.
yeah, but it's really shocking to people overseas.
No, I would just imagine, especially in LA, because
Yeah.
like, now me personally, littering is like one of my pet peeves anyway. And so like, it's not unusual to be driving down the street and see somebody throw like their drive-through McDonald's bag out the window. It pisses me off, for lack of a better, like, it pisses me off. But that is normal where we're from.
I will say that I have seen that here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like on
do people do litter? Yeah.
Yeah. I would have to categorize it as a Yankee move.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Yankee, like American.
Not Americanized. Westernized.
It's more of a westernized kind of like.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's like troubled youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, attitude. There you go. And then
the rebellious youth attitude.
Yeah.
Well, shit. If your rebellion is littering a little bit, you guys are all right.
It's kind of like the Yankees kind of like the to the man kind of like attitude, but it's a very once again, people tell me like how's Japan different? It's like you can choose anything you want about Japan life, and I can explain the difference between Australia and it's like it's kind of the same, but it's different. It's always a little bit different, and it's kind of like that's kind of thing. It's kind of sticking it to the man, but in a very Japanese-esque kind of way. It's not like it's not how you would associate sticking it to the man kind of thing, right? That sort of rebellious attitude. Very different. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
But actually, back to the original question of like day-to-day life.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where we were.
I think when I first came here, and this is a little bit unique to Matsuyama, I think, is being able to ride the bicycles everywhere. I love that. I was like, Matsuyama's small enough where you can ride from one side of the city to the other safely on the footpaths, on the sidewalks as well. And that's a little bit unique even to Japan, I believe.
He says this having just been in an accident.
Wasn't on the sidewalk. But yeah, like being able to ride the bicycles everywhere and whatnot safely.
I will say that when I rented a bike, it was the first time I rode a bicycle since I was like 10.
Oh, really?
I'm like, it really is like riding a bicycle.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, because I remember when I randomly bought one, I literally, I just walked past the place and a guy had one. I just bought it, and I was like, this is so much fun. I was like a little kid again.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind riding in the rain. I didn't mind riding. I mean, riding in the summer humidity is a little bit different, but I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Yeah.
And then, for context, if you are from LA, you know that you drive everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. Although they're getting better, like because of the environment, they're building bike paths or bike lanes and things in the street, and so more people are starting to ride as they can. But LA is all about driving.
Yeah. I would say be very careful.
Oh yeah.
We're not used to having pedestrians to look out for while we drive in LA.
Yeah. And so now and then that's the other thing too, is like they're making everything so bike friendly that like on certain streets it's like, oh, well, bikes have the right of way. And so the stick it to the man type people, as you would call them, will literally ride in the middle of the lane and there's just like a line of cars behind them. And it's like, dude, we know you get the lane, but you could fucking move over and let the cars go by. Like... and you guys drive too, but like traffic is not specifically a thing here. really, right?
In the city, I would imagine so, but again, we live...
No, I'm here in Matsuyama and Ehime, and
Well, but there's a difference between where we live here and the city. So, for context, I live about 17 kilometers out from the main city center area. And if you're driving in the city center, I would imagine that during rush hour, it's not a pretty sight.
it's not the 405.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean, even when I was living in Melbourne, having to drive across the city, and that was horrendous. I mean, this, even on its worst, on a Sunday afternoon and whatnot, I hate it, but I'm so used to not having bad traffic anymore that even at its worst, it's still not that bad, to be honest. But I mean, yeah.
But where we live in the countryside, everybody likes to drive just a little bit faster, which I appreciate. And there are lovely big roads that are very empty, and I mean,
And there's distinct lack of police presence.
I mean, they're there, but I mean, just not a lot goes on, so there's not really a lot to have to patrol for, per se.
People don't have guns here, guys.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
No.
I mean, it is a thing. It's not a thing, but you have to pass really rigorous tests, both physical aptitude tests, mental sanity tests, and things like that will allow you to have possession of a firearm, but the firearms that you can have are only for hunting purposes, and you have to test over and over every year in order to maintain that. And police will come to your house randomly throughout the year to check whether your firearms are safely stored away and things.
How do you know this?
Research.
Okay, fair enough. This is a random.
Do you have a gun?
Random nugget of nothing.
I do not possess any weapons, any firearms. No, but you have to have your bullets, your magazine, everything has to be in separate places, and the police will come and check to see that you are complying appropriately. Yeah.
And so that was also one of the big things when I first came here is, as a woman walking around at night anywhere, you feel safe. There's not, because people are so considerate and polite and care about other people, you don't worry about anything happening to you. I could walk down the street right now at 3 o'clock in the morning out here in the country and feel perfectly safe and have no qualms about it. Not like at home where you gotta be scared to go to the grocery store and somebody's having a mental break and shoots up the grocery store, because that's a thing where I come from.
So I don't think it's fair, because I think you can always one-up me on any crappy Western point, because Melbourne's got its issues, but it's obviously nothing compared to.
Okay, you go first then.
Australia can count their mass shootings on one hand, right?
Yeah,
it's all of Australia, not just Melbourne.
So can we, but for the past hour.
Yeah. Yes, it's we don't have too much of it. Well, I mean, there's an issue, but I mean, it's nothing compared to you guys. But the safety thing here is something and it's not even serious crime. It's petty crime.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about shit getting stolen out of your car. When my parents came across and I don't lock my car, my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's fine. Nobody's taking anything."
Right? Yeah.
And it's just, and then.
So it's a thing to leave your car idle outside of the grocery store or outside of the convenience store. You just, especially in the summer when it's hot.
I don't know if it's a thing, but you do see it. Yeah.
It's kind of a thing.
It's
very common.
Because the weather is so extreme. So in the summer, they leave it on and leave the air on in the car.
Yeah.
In the winter, they leave it on. They leave the heat on in the car.
Yeah, I have seen it enough times. I wouldn't say it's that common though. But yeah.
Okay.
But I always think about I could just steal this car now. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Westernized.
Watch out for that.
It's still there. Deep-rooted, like, just mess shit up.
But okay, what happens when you see some kind of lost or forgotten item on the street? What do people typically do?
Then they'll put it up where you can see it.
In in
they'll set it up. They'll set it up on something. Like, I mean, it hasn't happened recently, but when I used to ride around on the bicycles, I dropped my wallet a few times, and it was found once by a high school kid, and he gave it to his dad, and I got it all back with everything in it, and it's there's numerous times that, and so I don't.
It's adorable.
And like,
Yeah.
I remember asking one time, I think this was the last time I was here, and we were somewhere and there was like a scarf tied around the pole.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, is there like a significance to this? And she explained to me, oh, somebody lost their scarf, so whoever found it picked it up and put it where you could see it. So like if you retrace your steps, you're like, oh, there's my scarf.
Yeah.
Which is the coolest thing ever.
I mean, just like a couple of weeks ago, I was walking back to my car and I saw a bicycle key just on the ground. So I picked it up and I put it on top of the crosswalk button box
Okay.
because it's easier to see.
And nobody comes along and goes, ooh, a bike key, and takes it. No, it stays there until whoever lost it comes back and gets it.
Yep.
And that, that's unheard of in the States.
Yeah, I think
But what are you gonna do with the? You're gonna go
It
around
doesn't
to
matter.
every
These people
bike
are
in the
a-holes.
area and try to see if you. That sounds like way more work. I don't want to do.
It's an opportunity, Erika.
American math,
It is,
okay?
So I would say definitely one of the things I do very much enjoy is I do not have to worry about that at all. I don't have to be concerned about things. I don't have to be concerned about altercations in bars and whatnot. I don't go to bars anymore. But like back in the day, things just escalate from nothing to something. I'm assuming in LA, much in Australia as well, just over stupid shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about somebody just glassing you or things like that. That's a,
Is that like a bottle?
like just random acts of violence just didn't happen here. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed not having that around. And I'm just like,
Yeah, my anxiety drops considerably when I'm here.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think one of the first things that I realize when I go back home is the guard. Like, just automatically making sure that my guard is up, making sure that I am hyper vigilant of everything. I'm always thinking about, where do I put my purse? Where do I, should I keep money in my pocket or somewhere that's more hidden? I'm always thinking about things like that as opposed to just living.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been way too positive. Because I was in regards to living here in Japan, we make it sound like it's because I remember when I moved here, I went through the first year or two it was like, oh, these things are quirky and weird, and then shit just started to annoy me, like the bureaucracy. Things there.
But that's totally.
Oh, it's totally different thing. But I mean, it's a significant aspect of there's a lot of little things that are harder to live with, and things just used to irritate me to no end, and then I just got over it. I realized you would always look at your own country through sort of rose-tinted glasses, it's so much better when you sort of forget maybe some of the shittier things that you're just used to.
Okay. I will say, I miss the convenience. I miss the accessibility of, again, like we talked about, that I'm from Los Angeles, and you can go to Little Ethiopia, you can have Greek food, you can have pretty much any cultural experience that you want to have. I will always recall when I was a university student and we counted how many languages were sitting at the table just having lunch, and there were 12. Now, we work at a school where a bunch of foreigners teach English, so it's kind of easier for us to have this experience, but typical Japan is not very much, not like that.
That's very homogenous.
I do miss that. I miss the ability to have, access to whatever I want at any time.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
have to
pros and cons.
Of course.
Because the level of consideration amongst people here is unmatched, I think. And then,
I don't miss having to worry about being hit by a stray bullet in the changing room.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
I don't miss that.
Or, because, you haven't been there in a while, so now the new things are, so homelessness is off the charts. It's off the charts. Yeah. And even though I hate to say it's normal, but that's the level that it's at now, to where it's just a normal, everyday thing. And so a lot of those people either already have mental health problems, or the state that they're in heightens their mental health issues, or their anger, or their rage, or whatever it is. So it's not just mass shootings, it's, there's a guy wielding a screwdriver, or there's a guy with a hammer attacking people. Or, it's unreal. It is unreal. It's stuff that years ago you would have thought would never happen. That's literally everyday life now. And so,
I will say, mental health in Japan is not a thing in the sense of it's not dealt with.
okay.
So, stuff it, hide it, put it away, lock it away in a closet. If there are any issues.
So how do they not obscure us? Harry Potter.
There are issues here and there. They're very few and far between, but they exist. So, just how long ago was it that coin laundry incident?
What was that? Earlier this year?
Yeah, it was sometime this year, where a coin-operated laundromat place. That was the setting of the incident, and it was a laundromat that I go to sometimes. And a woman was randomly just doing her laundry like she would, and some guy came in and stabbed her to death.
Okay.
It happens, but again, the incidents are not
Daily?
Well, by the hour I was gonna say, but yeah, they're not like that often, but they still occur. And the problem is that mental health is very much a taboo subject here. Anything outside of the norm that doesn't present itself properly is taboo.
So again, pros and cons.
Yeah, very
Because
much.
then at the same time, like I said, everybody's so considerate. The customer service here is stellar. Everywhere you go, customer service is even to the point where, like, I forgot how stellar the customer service was, and we were somewhere, and I was like annoyed because I felt like this lady was all on me, but it was the customer service, and she was trying to help me, and I was like, dude, just give me a second.
Yeah, I think the Australia's much the same is the what we would call menial jobs. They don't have the same sort of negative kind of like
connotation towards even being in
yeah, people
You
are
mean
like
classism?
yeah, in a sense, but I mean it's kind of like people who just do a simple job. Let's say it's retail, don't look at it with any pride. Whereas people look at their job, even if it's working a register, with pride.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very non-Western, because they're just like, well, I'm just fucking doing this job, or I'm just working at McDonald's or whatever. Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody thinks that doing a good job matters.
Yeah.
Because hey, I don't get paid enough to do a good job.
Yeah.
Me and Erika literally talked about this the other day, where
Yeah.
she was like, the Japanese way is like, if you're gonna do it well.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No matter what it is.
Yeah, like, and that shows. To
Yeah.
me, that shows, because the customer service here is stellar.
Yeah, it is.
But also, we're not a tipping culture either. That you don't tip, so you're not.
Escaped.
Yeah. So that's the dog, by the way. So basically, you're not begging for tips here, in a sense. You're not trying to.
Which makes it even better. You're not being nice for the tips.
Yeah.
You're just being nice because you're being fucking nice. Because that's, leave him alone. We're almost done. Just let him be.
That's gonna happen throughout the whole time. That's not him, that's Cinnamon.
But we're getting close to being done. It's got to be close to an hour. Just let her be. Because the barking's going to get ridiculous as soon as you open the door.
No, because Madam's in the other room. It's only her who's
It
escaped.
doesn't matter. The barking's going to get
We'll
ridiculous as
fix
soon
it
as you
in
open
pro.
the door.
Post-edit. And what were we talking about?
Basically, we don't have tips. We don't
Oh, yeah.
tips.
But
It's
outside of America, who else tips?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I mean, that's a you problem on that one.
Okay.
It's terrible.
It's
thing.
awful. It
It's,
really is.
yeah,
It's
It's
got
really
worse
bad.
as well, but I'm really
It's
ready.
really bad.
Because imagine you're a waiter and you go, like, you offer a certain service at first and then you see how it goes based on your clientele.
Yeah.
So it's already like you're prejudging your tables.
Yeah.
And you're giving a certain service based on what you think you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
so
okay.
you're like you're giving because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think, oh, this table looks like they have money.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give them really good service
Yeah.
because they're gonna tip me well.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, just the whole tipping culture is terrible because the company doesn't pay them enough, and so they're counting on these tips.
Yeah.
And then if they don't get them, then they're bitter about that. And then
the
it's
quality of
just-
service also is
is
affected.
impacted. Yeah. It's a whole terrible cycle.
Because we can talk to our students about what you said, like menial jobs, right? That bottom minimum wage paid job, and nobody has any negative connotation or feeling towards it.
No.
It's like,
People like, oh, when I grow up, I want to work in a convenience store.
yeah,
They're just like, what?
they think it's like a fun thing to do. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, so one final thought you want to leave people with.
about Japan, about my life here, about what?
Whatever.
Stay.
I think it's just more than anything, living here has really accentuated how I feel. I think the reason why I'm here is because I resonate with how people live here. And so that probably keeps me here. The fact that it's just so free. Yeah, it's so light, right? It's light. You don't feel so protected, so guarded, so
You can
On
relax. You don't
edge.
have to be all the time.
Yeah.
On guard all the time.
yeah. But I mean, I miss home, sure. I miss the convenience of the people. But yeah, I mean, just it's lovely. Come visit.
Yeah, I would echo everything that Erika said as well. I think it's like any sort of relationship of any kind. It's definitely a matter of compromise as well. In that it definitely has some good points and whatnot, but I think a lot of people sort of have this image of this not fantasy place, but this incredible place. But it definitely has. It's not the easiest place to live in all the time. It definitely has a lot of really good positives, but it has some negatives and some difficult things that you know.
I mean, but that's anywhere.
I think that's anywhere.
Pros and
For sure.
cons.
It is. So I think it's definitely well. I think the work culture here is not also for everybody.
No,
And
definitely
that's very different in regards to how would you say the hierarchy of how things work and what is considered. I think that's a big thing here is the automatic gratuity that's given to age. Whereas in America, Australia, your skill level would be where you are judged most on, whereas you get your age matters almost more.
Well, we're very ageist societies as well in other countries, as opposed to.
Yeah, you get that automatic sort of you know better because you're older, which is one of those things that did irk me when I first came here.
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter how good you were or not were, if there was a person who's older, they naturally get the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that. But yeah. Overall, I have no regrets about choosing to live here.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also raising your family.
Yeah, for sure. And like and people will bring up like the education system, obviously, and I mean, I look at that and go, yeah, I mean, once again, it's pros and cons,
Yeah.
and I'll be interested to see how my kids turn out given the very different environment and whatnot, and yeah.
Thank you for joining us, man.
My pleasure.
Erika, thank you for being here. Thank you all for joining us. This has been another episode of McCrazy's Place. It is me, Christina McCrary, your hostess with the mostest. You can find this podcast on YouTube. It has an Instagram and a Facebook. I also have a Harry Potter podcast with my bestie, The Lightning Bolt Chronicles, which you will find on YouTube, Audible, Amazon Music, iHeartMusic, and our website, www.thelightningboltchronicles.com. It has a Facebook page and it has a TikTok, but where the real stuff happens is in the IG stories. So that's where you really want to be. And we're a little behind on our last episode because I'm here and we've had some technical difficulties and we had this whole special episode planned for you guys. It's a whole thing, but it's coming. Also co-host of Thursday Night Live, which broadcasts live every Thursday night at 5 to 5:15ish p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Facebook. And all of these podcasts are presented to you by Sarkarigans Media Group, SMG or SMD. Thanks for joining us. You know what I always say, go forward with kindness and love this week. Bye. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Born ready. So I was ready at 9 o'clock.
No. Add that in.
A blooper at the end.